Hi everyone, this is Bernadette at Carista Mortgage here, bringing you our VIP Realtor partner Tony Singh. Hey Tony! And
Hi,
who's this little
everyone. Hi,
guy?
Bernadette. This is Denzel. Sorry, guys, he's going to join us for a bit of the call today because he's awake and my husband's
How,
actually out right now.
how old is he?
He just turned 4 months.
Oh, happy 4 months, Denzel.
Thank
Okay, so I love that he's with us, and we were talking about this is life, right, Tony?
you.
Like, what happens when we have family and we just go with the flow.
I mean, yeah, it is life, right? Because think of all the clients that we help. A lot of the people that we help are families or they're business owners with families. And so where do things actually happen? Hold on, Bernadette. Perfect. This is
Perfect.
perfect. Okay. Sorry, yeah. So life happens, right? This is real. I mean, we're in it too. Bernadette, you have older kids as well, but I'm sure that when you were building your business and helping your clients and being supportive, you were doing all
Oh,
these things.
absolutely. And it's how you prioritize. And sometimes it's not just about prioritizing, it's combining, it's joining, and it's not compartmentalized. Sometimes you just got to bring them all to the fold.
Yeah, but it's a beautiful thing because, a few years ago, maybe it would be considered unprofessional, but what could be more professional and amazing than supporting your family and supporting clients, right? I think it was really the
Absolutely.
stuff that happened during COVID when you had certain, like with the
Yes.
kids in the background, men that had done, and it's like, oh, what are they supposed to do? Exactly. And what are the moms supposed to do too?
Exactly, exactly. Speaking of families, I know there's a lot of families we're helping right now. Tell us, Tony, what are you seeing in the market? What's going on if I'm a buyer, can you tell me what's going on in the real estate market? If
Mhm.
I'm a seller, can you tell me what's going on in real estate market right now?
For sure. Most of our sales at the moment are for our buyers. That's not to say that our listings are not selling, but the reality is, if you're a buyer right now, it couldn't be a better time to buy. It's very interesting, right, Bernadette? Because then you have some people that are buyers that want to wait. They're like, oh, no one else is really buying now. I want to wait. And actually, that's the time when you should be buying.
Yes, I agree. I agree. So you have a lot of buyers right now. What are they looking for?
All types of product, but primarily the buyers that we're working with are people looking for primary residence. There are also some really solid investment land opportunities where that didn't really exist before. But I think if you're looking at cost of land and the fact that the financing on that's still relatively high, right, for construction mortgages, anything like that. Some of the larger scale land developments that we're selling, around 2016-ish, 20 a long time ago compared
Wow.
to now, they're actually a lot cheaper today. They've gone down. They've gone down. So in that way, you could have investors looking to scoop up parcels of land,
Hmm.
but most of our business right now is with primary residence families because for investors, the price that makes sense for an investor is
Yes.
down here, and the price that maybe a previous investor owner purchased at was up here. So they don't want to, it's very difficult to close the gap. Obviously, at a larger, at macroeconomic scale, you're seeing some of the larger developers go belly up and into receivership. So that's interesting as well.
Holy smokes. And what
Yeah,
about the
that's the
seller?
pre-sale
Yeah.
side is really, really suffering. So our sellers, okay, we have a bit of a mix of everything. We're working with sellers on all different price points, right? And it's interesting because our stuff overall is still selling. I had a couple of conversations with some other top producing realtors. They are
Yeah.
saying that it's the toughest market they've ever been in. And they've been
What?
around just like me for, I don't know. And well, this is the thing. I'm like, really? Because we've been around for these guys have been around too between 15 to 20 years. It's a tough market, but we're actually not feeling that it's tough because no matter what happens, the market will always ebb and flow. And so
Yes.
what really matters is like again, most of the time right now we're closing deals for buyers who are getting amazing deals on properties. Does it always happen where the offer gets accepted? No, but it's because it depends on which sellers are motivated. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
I'll
it
give you
does
an
it does
example.
make sense.
I'll give
Yeah.
you an example. So the last three buyer deals that we did over the last week and a half, they got really great deals. Why? Because the sellers that they were bringing the offers on, they needed to sell for a specific reason. So we were able to negotiate better price terms and conditions that were favorable for our clients. Now, what does it mean then for our listings? On the listing side, it is more challenging because you have less activity and fewer offers. But what really matters then is the price that we set on the home, which I said before, you can't get around it. Price is a really big thing. It has to be priced properly for the market with proper marketing and sage negotiating skill. Because I'll tell you this, we have a couple accepted offers right now for sellers. And if those goes through, those will be prices. Why would you have record pricing in this market? Market's not good.
Yeah.
There
But
will
but
be a
but
common denominator,
yeah.
right?
You can't be wishful, I think, when you're selling. You got to be more strategic. And I say wishful meaning, oh, this is the wish of the price. Like, no, you have to understand where the market is right now.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's helpful because I think a lot of our clients as well, they're confused about the market.
Hmm.
So I think that it really depends on the client situation. So another example is we have a client right now that has their home listed with us. They're downsizing to a
Okay.
smaller space and moving a bit further out. And so even though they may take less than a few months ago on their property or at the end of last year, right? At the end of last year, actually, the prices were higher. It doesn't matter to them because, and it shouldn't matter for their purposes because their purposes, they're reinvesting the funds in the same market because we know what we're going to get them. And so you're
Hmm.
replacing it in the same market or they've already technically sold. So they're kind of purchasing right now when the market's going down, which is even better. It's quite
Right.
rare that would happen. As long as you're doing it in the same market, it's okay. But for this
Mm.
person, they're cashing out of their large home in the city,
Uh-huh.
moving a bit further out, getting more land. The payoff is huge, right? And they're able to negotiate a better price for themselves on the purchase because they're now sold.
Oh, lovely, lovely, lovely. You also touch a little bit on what's happening to developers. You heard about that news about GST.
Oh,
Yes. So, what do you think about that? How do you think that's going to be impacting the market at all?
I think that that would impact the market if the GST rule applied to everyone, not just first-time homebuyers. It only applies to first-time
Ah,
homebuyers, right? And it's under a million. And then when you go above, it's like a what do they call it? Staggered amount. What's
yes, yes, tiered.
yeah, tiered. Thank you. A tiered amount.
Yeah.
And so, sure, for a small segment of the market, it could make a difference. But I think the people making these rules need to ask themselves, if somebody who is a first-time home buyer, if they're in the market, what are they actually buying? It's not necessarily new product anyhow, because there's a
No.
lot of uncertainties with that,
Yes. Let's
right?
talk about that. What are the uncertainties with that, Tony? I think it's important because people don't understand the
So
uncertainty
for
with
pre-sale,
pre-sale.
we mean
Hmm.
new development then, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So one example that I can give that's happening right now is, there's a building in Metro Vancouver where they had sold a bunch of the product,
Hmm.
but it's now going into receivership. So then the question is, what happens with my deposit? So let's say you're a first-time home buyer, just right, and this actually
Yes.
happened
Yes.
around when I first started real estate. This was happening around 2010-ish to maybe 2013. There were a few buildings in Vancouver and everything where it's like, oh, they actually went to market. They sold the paper rights to it, right? Because you give the deposit
Yeah.
as the buyer, you get the benefit of, okay, well, I'm going to close
Yes.
on this at a later date. But for some of those buildings, what ends up happening is if the numbers no longer work and in the clause of the contract, because the contracts are drafted by the developer's lawyer for pre-sale. It's not a standard CPS for resale, which means that the terms and conditions will favor the developer. You can't get around it. You know what I
Oh,
mean? So,
right.
so the
Yes.
fine print, which is not actually
Yeah.
necessarily in the contract, it's in the developer's disclosure statement.
Disclosure. Yeah.
Normally, I mean, I've seen developers' disclosure statements, which are anywhere from 50 pages all the way up to 700. So, if you're not reading that along with the contract, and you're supposed to read both, you'll have no idea what your actual rights are, and they're very limited because there's provisions in the contract for the develop. And of course, it makes sense. They don't
It makes
know,
sense. Yeah.
right? Because the developer doesn't know if their construction will get pushed back. They need to hit a certain percentage of sales before getting the demo permit, right? In order to carry on. So there is uncertainty for them too if they don't know how the sales process will go. But in essence, Bernadette, the reason to circle back to what I said, why would it maybe not be the right investment for a first time home buyer? Because in an unstable market like this, would they even be buying something like that? So let's say they have the deposit, they write on a pre-sale, they give the deposit and it doesn't close or something. That means that their opportunity cost of giving the deposit and waiting and thinking that they have a home to go to in a year or two may not happen because they could give the deposits back. And also, we can't forget the fact that people have life changes too. We've had clients where, oh, they weren't starting a family that year. And then all of a sudden, everything changes, starting a family. Can they move into the condo? Well, it's not an ideal
Mm-hmm.
purchase for them anymore. And with the rules and regulations with flipping tax and all of these things implemented by government and legislation, I don't actually think that it's best for the end user. And I will always
Mm-hmm.
advocate for the end user. So I get that they're trying to do these things. I think the
Mm-hmm.
GST on pre-sale would be more impactful if it actually applied to other people in like more
Mm.
a larger base rather than just first
Right.
buyers.
Oh, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Am I
I
saying
think
things that are wrong? Am I going to get in trouble?
no, no. I think what I'm hearing you say as a first-time home buyer, there's a lot that you don't know that you don't know. There's a lot of uncertainties, and so when you're buying a pre-sale, will you be able to handle that uncertainty the type of thing?
Yeah, and here's
Um,
another example. Look in Surrey. Like Surrey market for it's so oversaturated right now.
it
Surrey. So
is.
it
Wow.
depends on the area and what it is, right? But what's going to happen to all those condos? And some of the buildings that are out
Mm-hmm.
there, honestly, in my opinion, like I'm not supposed to, there's a Real Estate Services Act, so it's like maintain the reputation of the industry, sure. And
Mm-hmm.
also, if the question was, Tony, would you sell your clients into some of these buildings? The answer is no.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes.
No.
Yeah. Makes sense.
And I
Uh,
can't say why actually, right? But you understand. Yeah, some of them are really,
yes. Yeah, and the thing is, I think when they did the projection for those buildings, that was when the government went, the pendulum swung too far to the left, where everybody's welcome to Canada, 1 million people a year,
yeah.
and then they realized, oh, doom. We've created this market where housing is just super short. It's already short and made it shortage more. And then they swung too far to the right. Like, okay, we're shipping everybody out and we're
Yeah,
limiting the
typical.
number of people. And now I wonder if the projection for those development was based on the old immigration data, like that people that are
I mean,
just
sure, because it takes, that's
right.
right. And if you're planning a master plan community, so there's a difference between master plan community where you have high density development near the major transit zones. Those types of projects for high density take time. Okay, so
Yeah.
if you're planning it, it's not like, okay, you're basing it on the old data because it could even be 3 to 5 years
Yeah.
before you break ground. Some of it depends where the site is as well, right? So let's say you have a commercial building that's on a large parcel of land where there's a master community slated. Well, remember that building has tenants. So you're basing it on the old data for what
Yeah.
immigration policies are at. And then it's like, well, under the Residential Tenancy Act, how are you actually, or Tenancy Act, whatever it is with the leases, how are you going to build here? You need to give everyone proper notice. So let's say you give the notice, all of those things, everyone's out. You still have to apply for
Hmm.
like with the plans, the development permits, all of those kinds of things, depending on the city. They've changed a lot of things at most municipalities in the last year and a half. But regardless, it still takes planning. So what do you
Yes.
do? And then you have a vacant building that you've knocked down, which happened near my house in Burnaby. They evicted all the tenants. They were going to build. It did break ground in the way that they started digging. They demolished it and started digging. They put a halt on the project because, and I
Oh,
think it was the right decision,
yeah.
because it wouldn't have made sense for the developer to move ahead with
Uh-huh.
building and then selling off what they intended to do. The numbers don't work right now.
Work anymore. Yeah.
But
Okay.
what are you seeing on the mortgage side? Because we have so many clients asking, they held rates. So what are you
Yes.
is going to happen over the summer?
Yeah, I know. So a lot of people were really banking on the dip in like June and even the last meeting, they're like dip back then and dip in June and another dip in July. However, unfortunately, this inflation risk from the tariff is real. It is real. I'm already feeling it. I ordered something from the States. My duty was $360 for like a, $800 item. So I'm like, what the heck?
Insane,
Right?
insane.
So which means this is just one thing. But you multiply that million times, like all the purchases that are happening, that's going to trickle to the economy, and that price is measured, right? And we all know that when the government senses inflation above a certain target, they're just going to jack up the rates, right? Because they want to really manage that. So what has happened was before the tariff conversation, even before Trump won, rates were going down already. And the reason why it was going down was everybody was saying, "Oh, the economy is in a great place right now. It's all good. Prices are stable and all of that." And then Trump won, and then the tariff won, and then to be perfectly honest, the interest rates have started going up compared to last year. And so, right? So
Told me
fixed,
that a couple
yes.
months ago, and I had clients that didn't believe me. I'm like, talk to our mortgage broker. It's happening. I can't control
Yeah.
the mortgage market. Yeah.
Yeah, the fixed rate market, people think like, oh my God, the Bank of Canada going to drop the rates. And people think, which means mortgage rates are going to go down. No, people, it doesn't mean that. Because the fixed rate market, it depends on the bond market, and the bond market is impacted by economic news, global economic news, what's happening in the US and what have you. And it's funny because every single, like in a week, rates could move two times, fixed rate. And the public doesn't know that. Like we don't share that story, but that could happen. So when people say, "Oh, the Bank of Canada is going to drop rates," it does not mean the fixed rates are following. No, it doesn't.
Thank you
So
for
right,
saying that for
yeah.
clarity for all of our listeners.
Yes, it doesn't. And so the moral lesson of the story is if you are in a fixed rate environment, you prefer a fixed rate. And I think it's better to right now. People ask me, should you go fixed or variable? Okay, I always tell if you want variable, there's the up and down. Are you okay with that? Are you okay? People would prefer that for flexibility. They're just locked in later. But if you are the type who wants peace of mind security, locking in on a 5-year fix is pretty dang good right now,
Interesting.
especially after we've gone through what we did when variable rates went up by like, I don't know, 5%
Yeah.
for a lot of people. So when variable rates had dropped by 2%, people think will keep going like that. It hasn't been the case right now.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, what are you seeing anything else? What about refinances and things like that? How are the
There's a
refinances?
big market for refinances right now. We have a lot of those happening, and then the reason being is when they got their mortgage 5 years ago, 4 years ago, rates were lower, but prices have gone up. Their salaries didn't match that, and
Mhm.
so people have leaned into tools. I'd say tools such as credit cards and lines of credit. And so it's not uncommon for a family to have 50,000, 70,000, 80,000 of credit card and line of credit
Really?
debts. Yes, it's common.
Wow. Wow.
And then what happens is they're like, oh no, this is, what do I do? They feel embarrassed to come to us to admit that that's what happened. But I say to them, it's better for me to help you because I understand what you went through. What we're seeing is when we go to the banks, they're so judgmental. I see it all the time. Like the lender goes, they shouldn't have done this. Why are they doing this? So how did they come? Like, what did they do that they raked up? That's the word. They raked up so much credit card that every single time. And so
A
I'm
lot of
like,
it is life. So
yes, right. And then they go, you should tell your clients they shouldn't do that. And I was thinking, it's a good thing I'm the one talking to you because imagine all these people going to the bank and hearing that, like the judgy thing. So the when
for
we've
sure.
helped, yeah, we've helped all these people, and with the refi, they think that their mortgage payment's gonna double, right? Because they paid 2%, and then now it's like over 4%. So they're like, my mortgage payment's gonna double. But because we've consolidated a lot of their debts, their payment actually went down by 2,000, sometimes 3,000. Because again, those credit card debts are really draining the life of a lot of people.
For sure. And I know that you've done that with some of our clients as well, where they've told us that you have helped them with
Yeah.
that. So that's really important for people to know because they know that it's an option.
Yes, so that's what we're seeing. The refinance side, in the purchase side, we still see a lot of buyers right now, and like you, we have first-time home buyers. We also see a lot of people who are thinking of selling, and what have you. For the first-time home buyers, the people who are buying have a very strong why right now. So, like we talked about that in the past, like they really know what's important, and so they're not letting the market drive their decision making. I'm like, okay, I want to buy this year. I've waited long enough. So they're the ones who's making. But if I'm talking to the client, I'm like, I don't know if I should buy this year or not. Yeah, and then the why is not strong enough. They're the ones that are waiting, I'm finding. Yeah.
I mean, just to your point there, I think that some of the guys that have wanted to purchase but haven't pulled the trigger, and it could be a personality thing, it could be a situational thing. Life happens as well, right? But in our experience with the clients that we have helped where they didn't purchase right away, maybe it's not the right time for them. But remember that the amount that you can save does not outpace the amount that your real estate, depending on what type of real estate you're buying, will grow. And so it's really important when we have clients, because we do have clients like that as well. And then finally, when they do end up purchasing the right home, right? The right one, it's like, holy crap, that's part of our retirement now. Or you know what I mean? Life
Yes.
actually gets easier as long as they're not purchasing too high and outside of their
Yes.
means. And there's a variety of things that we help them with as well. But again, would just want to say it for the listeners because if you're thinking of purchasing and you're waiting because maybe you think it's just not the right time or you can save more to purchase, the amount that you save will not outpace the amount your real estate will grow, especially if you're buying in this market. It's a good time to buy. So you're saving money, right? Buying lower and it'll appreciate.
Exactly. So and then the market is like that, like a herd mentality, right? Everybody pauses at the same time and everybody jumps at the same time. And it's crazy how after 20 years, it's so it's so obvious every single time. Okay, okay, everybody's jumping in now. So, well, having said that, I would like to close this chat this morning with Tony. What would you like to say to our viewers out there who, whether they're selling, whether they're buying, like this what, if there's one sage advice you'd like to give a seller or a buyer, what is it at this time?
Mm. Live in possibility. It can work for sellers or buyers, right? So I think that sometimes people in their mind already talk themselves out of doing something that they truly want where they have a strong why. And it could be they talk themselves out of selling or and moving or purchasing something because of fear. It could be fear related. It could be fear of not being able to make the payments, fear of investing, fear of not knowing what you don't know, those kinds of things. So if you are looking at making a change in your life, especially in regards to housing or real estate, I think that you should reach out to a professional that can help you and help guide you because I mean, Bernadette, they should be calling you to see what's feasible. Do you know what I mean? Because we can only help on the sales side if we know financially what the overall plan is. And so if you're curious, just have the conversation because we've had worked with clients, mutual clients, right, Bernadette, where they didn't think they would ever have a single family home. They thought they would never, it would never happen. And they're now on their single family homes and it's with ease, right? So that can also be a possibility.
Yeah, I love what you said. Live in possibility. Living in a possibility, I think to me means let that be greater than the fear, because we can be ruled by what we want, or we could be ruled by what we are afraid of. And I'd rather be ruled by what I want to create for me and my family. And again, numbers don't lie. If you reach out to me and I break down the numbers, like a lot of people are shocked. I didn't even know I can qualify for this much. I didn't even know. And so they let the
Yeah.
fear rule the possibility. But after talking to me, like, huh, I had no idea. So I love that advice. And if everybody watching here has any real estate related questions, we're sharing the link here. Reach out to Toni. Because if you're going to ask me if this is a good deal, my answer is I have no clue. You have to talk to Toni when it comes to real estate. So if you're thinking of buying, selling, upgrading, downsizing, when it comes to that real estate, is it the values and all of that? She is your woman. Any money related, reach out to us. We are here to serve you.
Yeah.
Numbers don't lie, and it's better to make a decision in front of the numbers, and it's an informed decision versus like that naggy talking in your head.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Enjoy the rest of your
Thanks,
day,
Bernadette.
everybody, and we look forward to talking to you soon. Bye.